There are two different ways that you can set up a budget inside of Monarch Money. You can use their category budget method, which was the original way that it was set up in Monarch, or you can use the flex budget method, which is newer and the more recommended way. The flex budget method is supposed to be a more simplified way to view your finances. So I want to take a look at both of those today to help you kind of figure out which one might work best for you. Both of them are great, but there can be some drawbacks to using one versus the other. So I do want to walk through those. So I'm just going to click on budget right now, and I'm going to show you what each of them look like just so you can have that frame of reference. So right now I've got this set to the category budget. So with the category budget, you will see all of the different groups. And you see there's a lot of them here. This is the original way that it pretty much comes set up. I've done a little bit of editing to this one, but you see there's about 10, 12 different groups of spending. And then each one of these will have a dollar sign attached to each one once you set up the budget inside of each one. In addition to, all the different categories, I'll do this one, all the different categories that exist underneath there. So that's what it looks like when you have the category groups. But if you were to change it to the flex budget, then you've only got three numbers that you're paying attention to: the fixed, the flexible, and the non-monthly. This can be a little bit easier to take on, to digest, because you're only looking at three big numbers when it comes to your spending. Yes, you can look at the individual numbers, but overall, you only have these big three to really pay attention to, versus when you're in that category budget, if you don't do a lot of changes from how Monarch comes out of the box, then you've got a lot of different numbers to look at, which just can be really overwhelming. So that's kind of a drawback to using Monarch out of the box as it's set up with the categories that are suggested here. So before that flex budgeting method came out, I would often recommend that you would go in here and edit the categories. So I just went to settings and then categories and edit them to reduce things down and combine stuff into bigger groups so that you don't have to look at 15 different ones. And so one of the ones that I would often suggest would be like the bills and recurring, which is similar to that fixed one that is in the fixed, flexible, non-monthly budget that the flex budget has. And so instead of having bills and utilities, this is bills and recurring, and instead of having a housing one, I would drop the housing expenses into the bills and recurring, the housing that are monthly recurring, the mortgage or the rent. Home improvement would probably go somewhere else. And then auto and transport, like the ones that are bills and recurring, drop it into that one category. And any of the other ones down here, moving them there. But anyhow, if you were using it out of the box, you're going to see a lot of these groups here. You're going to see the bills and recurring group, you're going to see the housing group, you're going to see the auto and transport group, gifts and donations, so forth and so on. The nice thing about the category budget is that you have a lot of flexibility in how you set this up. You can reorder things, you can combine things, you can drag and drop things. Let's say you wanted to see housing first, you kept yours separate, and then you want to see auto next and then bills. You can organize it however you want to. As you reorganize things over here for the category budget, when you go back over to the actual budget, that's how it's going to be reorganized here. So earlier, if you paid attention, bills and recurring was on top. Now housing has become on top, auto and transport is second, then bills and recurring, because we've reorganized those over in the settings section. You don't really have that flexibility to do that same type of reorganization in the fixed flexible budget, fixed flexible non-monthly budget, as you do in the category budget. The other thing is for like cash flow. If you wanted to like come to cash flow or running reports and to see, okay, how much was on this bills and recurring, you've got the category budget, then it's easy to click and to see those. It's easy to be able to filter by those big groups. But if you are on the fixed flexible non-monthly budget, you can't see the information by these different groups. So we've got housing, let me be clear, housing, auto and transport, bills and recurring. So let me show you what I mean. If I go over to cash flow, I could see it by category, but I could also see it by group. So I could see housing, auto and transport, bills and recurring, travel and lifestyle, so forth and so on. But if I go to my budget and I were to switch it from the category budget to the flex budget, and I do like the flex budget a lot, and I've got my fixed, my flexible, and non-monthly, I want to run a report to see like what was just my flexible spending, what did that look like over the last couple of months. If I go to cash flow, there's no option here. If I go to filters, if I look at accounts, okay, I could select accounts, I could select tags, but I can't select the fixed or the flexible or the non-monthly just to filter out those specific types of spending. I would have to select all the different categories that are in that flexible section or all the ones that are in that fixed section. So I don't like that Monarch doesn't have that as a viewpoint in the cash flow or in the reports to be able to run that type of report just by selecting my fixed category or by selecting my flexible category. I think that's a drawback as of right now, at least. So even if I come over here and I go to filters, there's a lot more when you run reports that you can filter by. So then I look and see, I've got the flexible budget on, but what I still see is the original groups from how the original categories are set up over there, those big groups. I still see housing, auto and transport, bills and recurring. And just to confirm, I'm going to go back to my budget, and I am definitely on the flex budget. I see fixed, flexible, non-monthly. Then I'm going to go back to reports. I want to go to filters, and I want to try to filter by my flexible section. That's not an option. What's an option is the housing group, the auto and transport group, the bills and recurring group. So I feel like that's kind of a drawback to using the flexible section. You're not going to be able to easily run different reports. It may not be a big deal to you. It's not as a big enough deal for me to not use the flexible budgeting method, but it does make you have to do a little bit more work. If you were like, I want to see what my cash flow has looked like for this specific spending group over the last couple months, you can't really see that as easily with the flex budgeting section. Now, you could set this up, fixed, flexible, non-monthly yourself using the category budget, and then you would be able to see it a little bit more. So in order to do that, categories or settings, then categories, you could make one of these instead of housing, it could be fixed and put all your fixed ones in here, flexible, non-monthly, and then get rid of all the other groups. So you could obviously do it with the category budget. There's a lot more flexibility to be able to do that. So that's just something to consider. I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritty of what that looks like if you were to set up all of that, because it is a little bit intense to go through all of that. But I just wanted to show you a couple of differences between the category budget and the flex budget. Personally, I am still using the flex budget because I like seeing a few numbers, and I don't want to go and do the specific setup to set up the categories in the different groups under the category budget. And so for me, I'm currently using the flex budget. If you feel like the flex budget is not working for you, then that is when I would switch over to the category budget. The other thing about the flex budget that may be difficult for people is that the non-monthly stuff has rollovers turned on, which can be confusing. So just to make it easy, you can turn rollovers off. Mine are already turned off on this here account that I'm in, but to do it, you just go to settings, and then if it's already on, you would just switch it to off, so that you are not being able to have the rollovers on. You can just turn them off until it makes sense for you to turn them on if you want to turn them on. All right, so that was just a little bit of information about the fixed, flexible, non-monthly budget versus the category budget. Hopefully it's been a little bit helpful for you to see the differences between the two. I'd love to know, which option are you using? Are you using the flexible budgeting method inside of Monarch, or are you using the category budget? Which one do you like best and why? Share in the comments. I'd love to hear what everyone else is doing. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.